It's October the 16th, 2010, and I'm here with the surviving members of the Martin Van Buren and Nora Bell McDaniel Sikes family.
Yeah.
We were here today to discuss the history of the Sikes family, to talk about their grandparents, their parents, their childhood, and their families that they presently have. Why don't we start off by each one introducing yourselves, and we'll start with the oldest first.
Martha Elizabeth Sikes Brawley.
Evelyn Lucille Sikes Russ.
Betty Jean Sikes Klutz.
I am Margie Virginia Sikes Waddell.
What? Okay. We were going to discuss your grandparents first today. Can you tell me their names?
That is Jacob Culpepper Sikes and Elizabeth Matilda Long Sikes.
Okay. Now, were they in Cabarrus County all their life, or did they move
No,
here from somewhere
no.
else?
They were native of
Union County
Union County.
in Goose Creek Township.
Okay. All right. Do you have any idea about the time frame when they were there?
Well, I think my dad was about 9 years old, something like that, when they came. And they came up in a wagon. Now, whether it's a covered wagon, I don't know. But they said that they had all their belongings that they owned was in that wagon, and they had a cow, and they tied the cow behind the wagon and walked all up here in Cabarrus County from Union County.
From Union County. Well, now, I'm making an assumption here. I assume that your grandfather was a farmer?
We used to run a grist mill.
A grist mill, okay. Do you remember the name of the grist mill?
All I know is grist mill.
Just grist mill, okay.
They went from place to place, as I remember.
Mm-hmm. Was that even while he was in Cabarrus County they did that?
Yes, he had a grist mill down on Little Coldwater Creek.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And your grandmother?
She was a homemaker,
Homemaker.
and she and my dad and his youngest sister, they did the farming.
Okay. So how many children did your grandparents have?
4.
And your dad was obviously one of them. What about the others? Do you know the names of your
My dad's sisters,
dad's sisters?
Marcini Virginia Sikes McEachern, and Emma. I have it written down, but I
I
cannot
don't
remember the middle
remember her
name of
name.
that. Emma Sikes.
Blackwater.
Blackwater.
Can you tell me any stories, anything you can remember as far as interesting about them when you were children? Obviously,
Well, you told me.
they probably passed away when you were young,
We were very young,
mm-hmm.
very small.
So you don't really remember
Not a lot.
not much about them.
And what we see.
I understand that our grandfather, Jacob Culpepper, was a musician, that he played the fiddle, but I did not know that till many years later that he was.
Got something?
Didn't they live in the house with Mom and Dad?
Well, Mom and Dad lived in a house with them, I think
Well,
is what it
I
was.
was thinking that there's something about that.
And where they moved from place to place because my dad did not own any land until about 1928. And he was afraid to buy it because money was very scarce. And my granddaddy, Jacob Culpepper, was a Confederate veteran, and he drew a check about $195 every 6 months. And he said, "Oh, Martin, go ahead and buy it. I'll help you pay for it." Well, he died before he got the land paid for, which I think was about 62.5 acres. $2,000, can you imagine that?
$2,000.
And then the Depression came along and almost lost it. They finally had to refinance the 1 year that they had left, and for 6 years more, and finally did get it paid for without scraping around here to find enough money to get it together, because we were cotton farmers and, well, and grew out of anything we ate.
Mm-hmm. So, your grandfather was in the Civil War,
He was.
and your father didn't have any property until your grandfather was able to help him out with his pension
That's right, yes.
from the military. Okay.
That's right. He bought 2 boxes of brown mule and on plugs in boxes, and he kept it under the head of his bed.
Of tobacco.
Of tobacco, yes. And
We used to slip into it.
You did?
I don't think we did that but one time.
I don't remember, but I know we had enough of that.
But he grew tobacco, and I was about 6 years old, I think, at the time. And he would go out each morning, take him a bucket and pick the worms off of it. He did, and I would follow after him and watch him. And then when it got ripe enough at a certain stage, he would cut the long leaves off and tie them together and hang them on the grapevine to finish drying. And then when they got dry enough, he would make a twist out of them, and then he chewed that tobacco.
Is that Grandpa?
Granddaddy Sikes, Jacob Culpepper.
Was Granny, was she the one that wanted some ham, and they wasn't gonna cut it, and she said, well, what if I die tonight? I won't get none. Go cut that ham and eat it. Was that her?
I think it was.
I think so.
Granny's like, well then, this must have been told me, because I wasn't big enough, or wasn't born then. What was it?
You wasn't here
You
yet.
told me then.
Well, yes, you did.
You
You were still living.
Was she the one that rocked me so much?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
She watched after you when whooping cough was around and was raging then, and she was 13 months old, and she was very small because she just didn't weigh much when she was born, a very small child, I understood. And she and Betty and Evelyn, Granny would keep them in at the house while I would go with Mama to the field to pick cotton or to hoe cotton, whatever. And when she had the whooping cough, if it hadn't been for Granny Sikes, she might have died because so much old phlegm gathered in her throat. And when she'd start coughing and couldn't get over it, she'd just take her finger and run it down her throat and just clean that throat out, and she'd be all right then.
That was Dr. Sikes, then, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
But she was a midwife.
Yes,
Right.
she was.
You had to take care of your own back then.
Right.
She did.
Couldn't
She
just
knew.
jump in the buggy and go to the doctor that quick.
There wasn't that many around.
Yeah.
I think she done a lot of walking through the broomstraw field to go to do things like that.
And I heard it said that she was out gathering broom seeds one day because that's what they used to make brooms out of. And some man, I think it was a black man coming through the field, and she started hollering, Nick, where are you? That was what she called my daddy, trying to make him believe that she had somebody with him, and he passed on his way. That was kind of
Yeah.
smart, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
And another thing, we liked to run and play because we had neighbors that would come and visit, and Mama, she never washed a dish. I don't think my mother did, or most of the time didn't. And so she would come in there and we'd be stacking up. Children, stack up the dishes and Granny will wash them for you, and you can run and play. I don't know if my mother knew that we did that or not, but she did. She was just such a good old soul.
We loved her to death.
Oh, she was and of course, she was so small, I don't think she weighed 100 pounds, and her legs were so weak that she couldn't walk there toward the last, and we had a playhouse out behind the sheds out there, and Lee, my brother, of course was older, he'd pick her up and put her in the little red wagon, and we'd pull her out there, and she'd sit there and talk to us and tell us stories while we played in the playhouse. It was gracious, wonderful memories.
And those probably in the 40s, 50s, early 50s. When was this?
Earlier than that.
Earlier than that.
Earlier than that.
It was.
I was real small, wasn't very old.
You all were
Couple-
born in the
maybe
30s,
3
early
years.
30s.
30s.
2 to 3 years old.
Mhm. So it was in the early 30s.
Yes, very early.
Yeah.
Well, how old was each when they died, born?
Yes,
I
you were just small.
would say 33.
33.
Something like that.
I would
And
think.
he died before that?
He died in
29.
29.
Yes.
Yeah.
He had a stroke in April, and
The 30th wasn't on his birthday.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Yes. He had run to the woods because he made his own splits, the bottom chairs.
Right.
And he used the white oak
Mhm.
and just the younger trees, and he would drag that to the house, and he'd take it to the wood pile and get his axe and trim that up good, and then he'd start slicing it off, to make his splits.
Right.
He sure did.
We've been in the bottom of the chair. Yeah, that's the way they did it.
He had an old iron chair. It was made of iron, and then there was a thing that went in it, to cover it, to sit in it. Well, we were getting ready to move from this place to where the house that we have pictured, and so they put it on the wagon, I suppose, and hauled it off over there one day to try to get things lined up to move. Well, he got really upset about it and hauling his chair off. Well, we lived, and there was a meadow and all of that branched across, and it was pretty near a mile, I think, across there.
A good mile.
And he walked with a cane. Well, he was so mad and upset about it, he took off over the house where we was going to live and got that chair and carried it on his back home.
My goodness.
He was a determined man.
Yes, he was.
And I think Granny was scared of him.
I think she must have been.
Because I know one day Mama was cleaning up, and she slept in one bed and he did the other in the same room. But anyway, Mama turned his bed around. He come in and found it. He turned it back around like it was. She goes back in and she turns it back around like she put it. And I don't know how long that did go on, but she finally won out. She was the only one that could do anything with him.
Well, I don't care if he was stubborn.
He didn't even want to see Daddy much.
And we didn't. After he had his stroke, Mama had to look after him. He wouldn't. He would just fought him, I think, if he'd went in there. But I think he loved him to death because he's his only son. But he would just. That was after he had his stroke. It was
Right.
like that wasn't beforehand.
Sometimes it affects people's minds
I
and
think he
change
did.
their personality too.
And I slept with him all the time, and Mom was so afraid, in the condition he was in, that he would roll over on me, and so she took me out. He was very unhappy about that. He thought I should be in the bed sleeping with him. But he relived the Civil War during those months that he lay there with that stroke. And I said, oh, many times, if we'd only had recordings back that time,
Mhm.
we could have got a good history of the Civil War. He had two brothers, and they met under a tree. One of them was wounded, and they met each other there. But he never saw any fighting. He was a water boy, they said.
Was he that young? That
17 years old.
17 years old?
Yes, when
In
he
the
was
Civil War.
in the Civil War. Yes.
I'm learning.
You're learning.
Yes.
I'm
Well,
learning.
You
And
probably
I'm
already-
learning.
Because a few times I've mentioned about things, and Betty said, well, I don't know about that. Tell me about it.
I had no idea.
At that time, a lot of families were split because one son would fight for the North and one would fight for the South.
I think they
That's
did,
right.
yes.
That was not that uncommon. But I assume he and his brother, was it one brother or two brothers that were in the
He had two brothers.
two brothers? Were they
John
all in
and
the
Bun and-
Civil War?
Yes, it's a Civil War.
All three of them fought in the Civil
They
War?
did. Well, he was in it, but he didn't really do
Well,
any
he
fighting.
didn't fight,
He was a
right,
water boy.
right. But his brothers did,
Yes, they did.
all for the Confederacy.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
You did.
No, ma'am.
You didn't. I know I didn't.
I thought you knew that.
No.
But-
a lot I don't know.
I need to see if I can find that tape. But I went down to Willie Irene. We all called her Aunt Bill. It was my daddy's youngest sister. And I told her I wanted to tape some of that, which I did. And I've got some tapes there, but I didn't mark it, so I guess I don't even have, well, I do have it with the other record player. Forgot about that, but not a radio that would tape anything anymore. But we just sat down on the back porch one day, and she told me some of these things that I didn't know until then.
And this was your dad's sister.
That's right, his youngest sister.
Yeah. That's interesting.
They stuck together.
They did. They were very
Yes.
close.
And I remember Aunt Bill talking about their they take the horse, not the horse, a cow. They had a cow, and they had to take care of that during the day. To Dad and
His sister.
What they did helped with their mother do all what was done around there, because Grandpa stayed at the grist mill all day. You see, they had to do it. One would, it was apparently very small, because I think one had the plow handles and the other the reins, and their mother was right along with them then.
They couldn't have been very old.
They couldn't have been. That's right.
there you go. There's a place in Rowan County that they lived at one time. There, I think about it when I go by there.
I don't remember anything.
Is the home still there? It's just property.
No,
Just-
they didn't own the land.
Mhm.
Probably.
They owned a grandfather's clock, and I assumed that when people moved and filled up their wagon, if there's anything they couldn't get on the wagon, they just left it where it was. They owned one, and that's what happened to that. And I wish so many times that they would have kept that going down in the family.
That'd been great.
But where did that clock come from that Lee had, that Grandpa had?
I don't know where it came from.
But Tracy has that now. Pay give it to Tracy.
Well, he has the old clock was Granddaddy's, my daddy's, and I have the clock that belonged to Granny. They call it
What
9
kind?
day clock, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
9-day
What
clock.
kind? 9 day?
9-day clock.
9
You
day
had to
clock.
wind it.
Once
You had
every
to
9
wind
days?
it.
Or was it 7 day?
Maybe it was, I believe the 7 day.
Well,
I think it was. I think it was, yes.
Was it a wall clock or floor
No,
standing?
it sit on the mantle.
Sit on the mantle.
Yes, it did.
It's like the one sitting on my mantle,
Okay.
7 day clock.
Okay.
But the one I've got belonged to Leah Faye.
Oh.
And I did not know that she had put my name on the back of it. So I moved it for Tracy to paint the mantle, and I saw it on there.
Do you know that they purchased it or did they inherit it from
Lee purchased
He
it.
did.
He bought that himself.
Well, Martha, you keep coming up with more stuff about your grandparents. I didn't think we were going to have anything.
Well, it just seemed like it just comes to me. You
Yeah.
just begin to talk about the story of their life, really.
We can now move on to your parents, discuss their life. Who's going to tell me what their full names were?
Martin Van Buren Sikes and Norbell McDaniel Sikes.
Right? And can you tell me when they got together? Did they lived in Cabarrus County,
They probably lived close.
lived close together.
I would think so, but I remember your dad talk about them being in the horse and buggy.
Right.
So I guess that's where they traveled back then, or in the 2-horse wagon.
Well, that's all the way they had to travel.
Sure.
Very few people had a car.
And do you remember any stories about them before their marriage?
I don't.
Didn't they go to dances? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that was after they got married.
Got married.
Because Mama wasn't allowed to go to dances
Oh,
unless she slipped off. And
Well, what
Oh.
she did was tell her daddy she's going over to her girlfriend's house to learn a piece on the piano, on the organ, and she never did see the organ. She went to a dance, but she didn't dare tell him
Oh.
because she knew if she did what kind of whipping she would get.
because he was a policeman, and he didn't
Oh,
have no
my.
mercy
Had
on
no
nobody.
mercy.
So he was a policeman, City of Concord, or?
That was,
Yeah. That's right.
Mhm.
yeah, our grandpa on Mama's side.
Okay.
But they lived down on Little Coldwater Creek, where I was talking about the grist mill was.
Mhm.
The old home was torn away in years after that, and a new home built down there, but that's where they lived. And then they moved where the picture of that home that we have there, moved up in the St. John's community and lived there a number of years. And I understood that they didn't want to rent the farm anymore, that man didn't. And they moved then a little further down St. John's Church Road toward the church and off on the Crest Road and lived there for 4 or 5 years, I think. And then they moved again, and it was a bitter cold day because in that time, why, there was cold weather came before November even, and people he would butcher hogs and cows, hang them in the smokehouse, and go in there any time that you wanted meats. You had your own meats there, and then after moving from there, they moved then back up to the end of the St. John's Church Road, then back on the Gold Hill and way back down off of the road there in the country.
And that's Liberty Road now.
Yeah.
Right.
Liberty Ridge Road, I believe
It's just listed as Liberty.
it may be.
I know it is.
But when they moved, it was a very, very bitter cold day. And of course, everything was taken over there by a wagon. And their better furniture, they put in one wagon, the best wagon. And the rest of it was put in the other wagons that they had, was kind of rickety and thinking. They went the short way through the woods and across the creek, not creek, but the streams.
Meadow.
Yeah, across the meadow. Well, they arrived there first, and they waited a good long while after him because it was much further around the road to get into the house. And he was literally just about froze to death. My dad was when he got there. They had to help him down off the wagon because it was so bitter. And that was before Thanksgiving, I think it was. And that's how cold the weather it was then. But he was in the Army a very short time, and I don't know what the problem was, but he didn't stay in too long. And he had his old heavy wool coat.
Yeah.
Army. It was an army
Well,
coat.
it was an army coat. And I think he had some kind of cap or something that
No, he
came
didn't.
down over his ears. I
Yeah,
think.
but I don't remember just what it looked like.
I don't really either.
I remember moving.
I remember seeing something, and maybe I'm wrong, but it was something like I saw a picture, and he had a cap on.
Had a bill on it.
And it was like
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I've seen it just recently.
So your dad was in World War I.
Flat hat, wasn't it? A flat hat.
I don't think there was really a war going on.
It wasn't a war, just
No,
it was in the
no,
military
no,
at
it
the time.
wasn't.
It was years before
Okay.
there was one ever
Okay.
broke
Do you
out.
have a time frame when this was taking place? Had y'all
That
been
was-
born yet? This was before y'all were born?
That's before must have been before he's married, maybe.
Before he's married?
When Daddy went in service?
No, I was talking about actually when they were moving to these
that was
different
what,
locations.
27.
Yes, I
About
think it was.
27.
27.
Okay.
I was just
We weren't there then.
Weren't there?
I was. I was right. Mama took us in the car.
Yes, she did.
She had to clock things in the car with her.
So you had an A model,
No, Maxwell.
No.
He had a Maxwell car.
a Maxwell. Okay, yeah.
Oh, brown looking car.
Yes,
wasn't
it was.
Yeah. Had
Side
curtains.
Side
Side
curtains. You could fasten in there, buttoned up around the side.
Now is the Maxwell? That's not the one
Yeah.
that everyone's posed
Oh.
in front of the old home place,
No,
is it?
no.
That was
So, that's
That
all
was
it
A
was.
model.
A model sedan. Yeah.
That was Ray's brother's car.
Okay.
And I think he swapped it in for a later model of a Maxwell there one time, but I don't remember just
He had a
what.
Rio one time.
Yeah, I think that, yes, it was. I think
Yeah.
after we moved over there where that whole place
Oh,
was.
big, gawky looking thing.
Oh, yeah.
Equal to them old big Buicks.
Right.
It certainly was.
Yeah.
The photos that you have there, what is the time frame? Let's see, the first one, I believe, was your dad. Was he playing a musical instrument there, isn't he?
Fiddle.
Photos,
Yeah.
the fiddle?
That
Didn't
was
call
a-
it violin,
Violin.
called it fiddle.
Fiddle.
That was in 41.
That was about 41. Okay.
Yeah, because I took that right before I got married.
Okay.
And I finished school that year.
Much obliged. I'm glad you did.
I don't guess we know anything
Yeah,
about this
okay.
picture because
Okay.
that was took before our time.
Yes.
Okay.
Along with this first one. He
The
played
first
a-
one and the second one.
Well, now,
Same
the
way.
first one, he, not only that fiddle he played a 5-string banjo.
Yeah.
5-string now, they're not all that way.
Right.
And I remember he had a hard time keeping that in the side, that little stem or key
Right.
light.
Right. Yeah. About halfway down.
And it came in a sack.
Came in a sack.
Came in a sack. The fiddle It's still not been restored. Still in the same little box. First time I ever seen it. It looks just about like that. Got a little age on it.
That's
It
the
has
little
the roses.
cage.
Yes.
What that was.
Has the roses in there. And he did have the juice harp. I got it in my nightstand drawer, I think.
Who has the fiddle?
I do.
Oh, you got the fiddle too?
And it's what, about 150 years old, more or less?
I would think it is.
Oh,
old
man.
man.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have to get a photo of that.
I've got a banjo.
You got his
He did have it
banjo?
on the wall.
Okay.
Well, I've got a sword on the wall,
Yeah, but I remember when you had
but I've still got
the
it.
banjo and you still got the bag, hadn't you? Did they make that or did it come like that?
I don't know.
No, I know you didn't make
I
it.
don't remember it being in a bag.
It was sack and it had drawstring at the top.
I think
Yes,
so.
I believe I do now.
Yeah.
See, I thought I was the youngest, but now people know this.
Sometimes you have to remind us.
Well, Margie, you know you have it. You know what it's in.
But no, not the banjo. Not the banjo. I just remember that it did come in a bag. He took pride in them things, and he said the last bow that he bought, or we was with him to get it. They're not any good. They all just won't hold no time till the hairs be all out of them. Yes,
They don't make horsehair like they used to.
must have been.
Most of them were horsehair, weren't they?
I
Most.
think so. Yes, I think so.
The next photograph, that's on the home place front porch, is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
Got on overalls, which he wore all the time. I think till maybe a little bit late his years, long before he died. Possibly he had some pants, but
He didn't like to wear them.
He didn't.
Big like. But in the wintertime, he would wear pants under his overalls to keep him
Just
warm.
keep warm.
yes,
Or two pair of overalls before too.
Oh yeah, I've seen that many times.
And guess where he kept his money?
In his bib, on the top,
Down in the sock leg.
in the sock leg.
And there, if he had on two pair of overalls, that billfold was inside. It wasn't the outside pocket. It was inside. You didn't think you had anything. And it was sticking inside there.
but you know, Margie, I don't think you heard much of anybody stealing money from him or
No,
anybody else
no.
at that time.
And they didn't break in houses back then. We never locked the door. Slept with the windows up and the doors wide open. Ain't nothing about it.
It was a different world back then.
Very, very different.
Yeah.
I remember one time that Louise, that was Hugh's sister, she and Margie was around together so much of the time. Well, they found some bottle of old stinking perfume of somewhere, and they went out to the rose bush and poured some of it on the rose, and they cut it off. And Daddy cooked there and said, "Mama, look at this pretty rose we got for you." And she said, "Smell it. It smells so good."
I don't remember about that.
And he was a possum hunter.
A possum hunter.
Yes, and if he heard his dogs barking in the middle of the night, he'd say, "Mom, get up, got to go get that possum." And he'd climb the tree to get the possum. And he told us about go out the Gold Hill Road toward Concord, and before we get to the Cannon Farm and the Negro Church, or what we called it then, in the woods there, and he cut a limb, and somehow he cut a big gash or something in his arm. He almost bled to death. But wherever Mama went, he went with her, so that she could catch his axe or whatever he had. I think if he'd throw it down so he could come down. But when he got possums, he pinned them up, fat them up, so then they'd cook them, and many times Aunt Bill and Uncle John, her husband, his sister's husband, they'd cook up those things, and sweet potatoes. Oh, those greasy things too.
But they were good.
Good.
Yeah, they were.
Just think people wasn't, nothing said about cancer and things back then.
Done them good to eat that kind of food.
Yes, but there wasn't a lot of this chemicals and stuff in it.
No,
That's
That
what
makes a difference.
is what it was. He's certainly right. But
Did
he
Daddy,
loved his possum.
did
This
Daddy say,
picture was made over at Betty's.
Before their house was ever remodeled.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's right. I don't remember what occasion this was. Or maybe we just gathered up there.
I think he just came on in.
I think
so,
it was in
too.
the fall of the year. Yeah, that had to be along
In 1950, something like that.
about 59, I would think. But they didn't think about hemming up Daddy's pants.
It wore 'em, I call 'em sloppy long.
Well,
They
you
needed
definitely,
to have pulled them up. That would have helped look some.
Well, I think he was so slim and all he wouldn't stay up. It's probably
His
really
coat
hanging
is
down
too
like
big
that.
for him.
Well, that's right.
Back then they wore 'em, and it more was.
Look how big Daddy was through there. It didn't even fit at all. But you know, people didn't fit clothes like they do now.
You could
They
see
just
more of
made
his
to have
tie with
clothes.
that. Couldn't you?
That's right. I never did like that suit.
It was a tweed,
on
wasn't
him.
it?
It wasn't the
It
right
had a lot of
color.
colors, I believe, in the material. If I'm thinking
Yeah, but it didn't look right on him.
and I don't know where he ever bought the thing either, do you?
I didn't ask him.
Well, there wasn't any place to buy.
No, might have been Richmond Flow.
I wouldn't doubt it if it was.
That's probably
It
because
was,
I don't think they ever went to Belts to buy anything.
It was
I don't know what that might have been before Bells came along, Evelyn.
I don't know.
Phelps was probably
it's very
early 50s. They were there.
But anyway, that was good old days. And this one was made on their 50th wedding anniversary. That was in February, and then he lived till December the 30th,
And that was what year?
61.
61.
He wanted so much to live to be 50 years with their marriage.
I'll never forget, they were at our house, and they had one of these old-timey wheelchairs, and it was like a Ricky Rock. He slid out of that thing in the den where our table sits now, and I don't remember, I guess me and Buck picked him up and put him back in there.
Well, it wouldn't have took a whole lot to pick him up,
No.
as thin as he was.
The wind could blow him away. Would have blown
And
him
he
away.
used to like to go fishing, and my mom would say, now if you'll go with him and take him to the fishing pond and stay with him, I'll look after the kids and cook or iron or whatever besides just looking after the kids. Okay, I'll do that, you do the other.
They used to go with him, and Tracy used to go with him fishing. And I used to go with him to the creek.
So did I.
Yeah. And Ellen and Lula did too.
And what'd you do with the creek?
Fish.
Fish too? Also in the
Same.
creek?
A
Same.
seine made out of a tow sack
Yeah, yeah.
and
Put a big metal
band on it,
band on it. You see.
like a wagon wheel.
Right.
And then he put his tobacco on top of his head, put his hat on.
Keep it from getting wet.
Keep getting wet.
And then I remember one day caught an eel in that thing. Well, you can't hold on to them things. So he takes his old hat off, grabs it around that eel. We got it to the house and ate it after Mama cooked it.
You see, he took a hoe and churned under the banks of the creek to get the fish to
Right.
moving. And then it
Like
did catch.
catfish? No.
Yeah.
Go
Well,
on
he
the
wouldn't
banks like
keep any other kind. He said there's too many bones in them. Those suckers. He said, I don't want them old suckers. Throw them out. And so Evelyn carried the bucket or sack, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had to
Put
cut
the fish in, and I helped the sack in the under the creek where it would stay under their back under good,
And he used to gravel under the rocks for fish.
and never got snake bit, not one time.
Said he wasn't scared of them.
Those fish knew that, I guess.
Now this picture was made the same time that first one was of him and her. This of all of us.
But that wasn't made at my house, was it?
No, that one wasn't made. This is made at Betty's.
I was going to say that was Betty's.
Yeah,
The Hughes home then.
yeah. Well, I think it's a pretty good looking crowd.
Well, if they were here, they'd be proud of the whole family, I think.
That's right. They was all pretty good looking.
And there was
They
always
couldn't help it.
somebody there to live in with them, or to feed them, or look after them. They were just, the more the merrier.
We'd do better, wouldn't we?
I'll never forget, we were playing ball, and I know y'all saw those pictures over there a while ago. In the barnyard on Sunday afternoon, we had games we played. Haley over, which was throw the ball from one person on this side to the other side. You say Haley over.
Over the house.
Over the house.
Well, the well house is most of what we did.
Well, it's-
We done
it's a
good to get
house.
over
That
that,
was
much
a
less
roof.
the house, because the house was taller. Or the trees there could have caught it too. But and Tom Walker's, Peggy, and there it's on at the new old grain ground place. There's Scott, Ralph, and Lee and talking, and one of the little ones. Down in here was some more, and over here some more, and it's all on base. Even down to the children and grandchildren and great grandchildren was all down there playing.
Well, there was any great.
Oh,
Well, there was any great
I don't
grandchildren.
think there was, no.
I don't think so, unless Barbara was along. I don't know about her.
No, I guess you're right because.
Now this one was took at Sis's house on their 50th.
That should come
Okay.
earlier than that one.
Yes, it really should.
All right.
Anyway, we got it.
We put it in order.
But that's us, the family at that time, the main ones.
I'll never forget. My daddy, that I recall, never did whip me or Betty, I don't think, till we got in the barnyard and was throwing up a ball and it came down and hit him on the head. If you don't believe we got it, when we run and got behind the wagon bed, which was off of the frame, turned against the barn, and we went in between the barn and got in there, and boy, we just cried and pouted. We won't never do that again.
Well, he never did pop me but one time, and I threw a peanut in his eye deliberately. I remember just standing there and just aiming for his eye. I was about 5 years old. He gave me one good pop. I would like to kill me. I shunned him for ever so long. I never will forget that thing. But that's the only time he ever fought me.
And you know, being tall, I'm just gonna say I measured to his hips how deep the snow was, and it'd show all the way to the ground enough to make where you could walk through it to get to the chicken house, the barn, the water, the outbuilding, the
Yeah. I used to have
outbuilding,
shovel
whatever you
that
call
snow.
it.
We had lots of snow at one time,
It'd be waist deep.
and it would stay a long time.
Stay cold.
And you remember Lee went out the driveway, couldn't tell where the side ditches was, and he made it turn that old, what Ford car that was, but anyway,
Ford coupe, wasn't he?
he went right off in the ditch, but I don't think it was much trouble that he got it out, I think. And those old doors on those was made.
Now, this
Daddy
should
have a
come
car like
earlier,
that?
too.
What did he have? What kind of car did Daddy
There
have
was
at
a
that time?
Plymouth at one time, I remember that.
But Lee's was older in the Ford, wasn't it?
But these are
I
all
think so. I
earlier
really
than this
don't
one.
know about that.
Now, this was took at Betty's house of the whole family. I don't know what, well, that was the year that Betty was little. Same year that the other.
We didn't have
It must have
furniture
been
in
the
that
same year,
same.
because Mama has on the same dress.
Yeah, that's what I say. That was the same day that it all took. Because we all got on the same clothes there.
So that was in the 50s also.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now, this was took at your house.
Yeah.
This was the 50th anniversary too. And the whole family was on that one.
Okay.
We didn't have a church fellowship hall yet at that time.
No.
So we had a big living room. Well, still have a big living room, really. But that's why it was held there, because there was no fellowship hall
Right.
like there is now that people
Right.
can entertain there. So,
Alan was just a baby.
Mhm.
And Donna was the youngest one on there. Did you know that, Donna? Yeah, you were the only grandchild.
first great-grandchild.
Great grandchild.
You was number one. And of course, this is the home place where we were all. Were you born there?
I was, but Lee wasn't.
Yeah. The first time they lived there, we were born there. Because they lived there 2 different times. And then Betty and V was born the second time. Go around when they lived there. That's when they bought the place.
You couldn't help it.
It wasn't your fault, was it? I'm sorry. And this one was made there at the,
That was where Mama set her flowers on there, like a stair step.
well, it was like some steps. I reckon maybe Daddy had tore down somewhere. I don't know.
Oh, he probably built start.
He did.
Well, you never know what he was going to build when he went to the shop. But that was a good picture of them.
I know he made, people had, called him a pea dropper. That after they plant the corn, it'd come up a little bit while they'd take it along and pump it down like that. The peas would drop out in the ground, and then they would come up, and
The handle would come up as you picked it up.
and
Yeah.
Like one, there was one at the house.
and the
A pea dropper.
it was called a pea dropper. Well, he just decided he could make some. He thought he could sell them, but he made a number of them. But I don't think he ever sold very many of them, and he didn't make any more then. But he was just such God-given talent. That's all you could say, because I think he had about 6 months education. And I can tell you this story on him, and you've heard him tell it, and I think the others have heard. So he went to school, to Coldwater School, which was across the road from where Coldwater Church is. There's a spring down there. Well, in one of the boys, that both buddies, well, this girl, she followed after them wherever they went. Well, they went over to the churchyard and crawled up in this big sycamore tree, and of course she come over and sat down at the bottom of the tree. Guess what they did? They wet on her.
Oh my goodness.
I think she got away from there, didn't she?
Remember that?
I don't know
No,
whether she followed them anymore after that.
Probably stopped
Were
you
they
right
grounded?
there.
Huh?
Were they grounded?
I didn't hear anything about it. They got so many demerits because
Daddy
he
was
didn't get
one of those
other grades as
middle of it.
demerits.
Oh, he was mischievous. Now, I saw
Yeah,
this
it
too.
was.
But she went back to the school and told the teacher what
Yeah,
they did. Of course,
yeah.
then they got so many demerits for doing that.
That's probably about like the days out now.
Yeah.
Probably.
That's right.
And this was the little house that Daddy built for me and Ram.
He tore down an old house and built it.
I helped him tear that house down too.
Guess who hit?
Yes.
Guess who hit the back end of it?
Well, it was Betty.
Yes, I did.
Hit it with
In a
what?
car.
With
She
a
was
car.
learning to drive.
She
I was learning to drive.
she
He
hit
come
it,
out there.
put on the brakes some time. She rammed against it. There was no underpinning to that either. I'm surprised
Just
Rick
on,
got out
on
under.
brick.
Brick or
Yeah.
probably
Brick.
stone.
Brick is just rock,
Just
like the
stone
other.
rock.
Well, there was some brick,
Well,
but some rock.
Well, they were probably
Anything that
old
would stay.
Right, stack up.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that picture. I really do. Of course, this was made the year Mama died in '73. That was in March of '73, and then she died in November the 5th. of
First
70.
Sunday in November.
Yeah.
That's what it was. All Saints Sunday, considered in the Lutheran Church what it was considered All Saints Sunday.
And Margie went with her on a trip up in Virginia, Williamsburg, and she died right after that.
They thought that trip caused it. We said no, that
I
trip
don't think
didn't.
it did.
No, she
She
didn't take her
enjoyed
medicine
that trip to
like
no
she's
end.
supposed to. Yeah, they went that week, and then I was in the hospital, and she was sick when she come home. They told me,
She was.
and then
She would
died
never
on Sunday
complain
night.
though. She would always say, "Well, if it's bad enough, it'll tell on me. I don't have to tell on it."
She'd always say, "When I used to complain, want nobody to feel sorry for you."
That was her.
Yeah.
But you mentioned go, and I ain't going. But she was always ready when you'd have to pick her up.
But sometimes you had to beg her.
In those shoes,
Not
just
much.
alike.
Mine was brown and Sis's was blue, I
Is
think.
that
I
right?
made her dress at mine too.
And I think you
She
made
was
mine.
buried in it, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was buried in it.
I thought that's one.
Yeah,
Well, I made it for her to wear to her birthday party.
that was her 80th.
80th birthday
Mm-hmm.
in March 23rd, and she died in November.
Well, them girls wasn't very big back that time. Maybe they hadn't eat a whole lot. I'd like to be that slim again. I really would.
Go for it.
I've been trying for 6 months or more, but I haven't accomplished a whole lot. Well, that
Well, I
takes
know,
care of
I know Daddy,
that. I don't know where I was in there.
the outhouse was out around, closer to the house, around the chicken lot or somewhere there. A man came by one day and he told him he's gonna have
I
to
can't see it good enough to.
build
Tell what
one
it
farther
is.
away from the house than that. He said, "How far?" And it found out it had to
You
be
know
below the
anything about
barn.
this one?
Daddy said,
I
"You
don't.
can make me build it, but you can't make me use it."
There's the cot.
Yeah, we could
Yeah.
make you build it, but you. And
That's
I
a
remember
cool one.
sitting on my
That
daddy's
was one
lap.
of the,
My mom was
Oh,
working
their
second
first.
shift,
uh,
and I'd sit on his lap with a leg facing him, with one leg here, one leg there. We had a comb, and we just sit there, just me and Betty at night. They're just combing his hair and put it in the middle, put a comb down here, and say, "Hi, Hitler." Daddy didn't say a word, just sat there.
I put all kind of things in his hair.
I don't
to
remember.
make it.
And we had to bring in corn cobs
I didn't know about that one.
to start the fire, I think. And then he'd pull his shoes off and his hats, and we'd make little pig lots out of the corn cobs. And then we'd get on his shoes, and his hat, or mama's, whatever. We'd trape around in the room. Thought we were big stuff.
You got by with anything.
Now, I need you to discuss the photos.
I don't know enough
You
about
don't,
it.
well, they were just photos
You
taken
need to start back
at
here.
your home place.
You need to start back here, because
Well, I can't tell you a thing about that picture there. I knew nothing
I
about
don't
it.
know either. I don't know who.
What is it?
That
Daddy.
strange one. I
His
don't
daddy's
know.
got his name on
I
it,
think
sitting in a
it's-
fire. It looks like a fire engine.
A fire engine.
I just don't know.
But
You don't
I
know?
don't,
I don't either.
I don't know whether that was before any of us came along.
Yeah, I think so.
I would think so.
It had to be.
Yes, I would think so.
So
That don't look like him.
He had a hat, which was
Oh, he did.
unusual. It was,
And I don't know anything about this from the cotton patch. All I know is the picture.
it was Mom and Dad.
Yes, I'm sure.
And
it
then the bottom picture was at Coldwater at homecoming. It probably was one of the first, don't you think? They had them out in the yard.
was. I don't think it was the first one,
What's the
because
date
the
on it?
first one, we had the tables under the tree there at the road, right at the road, and the others were back
what
in
is
the
that
pines,
date?
where there's pine trees there.
1959.
52.
And we had no water, no well at the church. So we'd go across the road over there to the spring, and between Sunday school and preaching, bring your water, get water, and brought a pitcher full in for the preacher so he had water to drink. And so then Mark Earnhardt, who was one of the members there, he
I don't
started
know that
going
yet.
to the ice plant, and
I
he
don't
got a
think
big
these are just the ones that are
galvanized-
posted that we're talking about.
garbage can, I think it was. He built a place between the trees, so it'd be a shelf for it. And he'd go into the ice plant and get a big hunk of ice and put it in there.
I
He
don't
didn't
know
have
anything
Coca
about
Colas
these
because
either.
nobody knew anything about them
Wow.
really, because he never bought any. But
And
then
Daddy and
met-
Mama.
I had the
I don't know who this, I
then
don't,
tables set up, built
I don't think so.
out in the trees there where you put your
Archie?
feet on. And
Archie, I think.
even before that, when they had anything, they just spread a sheet or something on the ground where the sticks or whatever there was, it wasn't even cleaned off. And they're just flat on the ground, and you had to stoop down and get what you wanted. But it's mostly sandwiches or something that you could eat in your hand.
Right.
No water to drink. You just had to eat and wait to get your water sometime later. Is right.
Was that Archie? Not right
I
there.
think it is.
That's what they say. This other one is Mom and Daddy, but I don't know anything about that one or this one either.
That one was taken at the beach. That
Is that where it was?
Betty and Hugh,
Took it in.
Mom and Daddy, and Bob Driver, and myself, wasn't it? We had a carpool, I know that. I remember they took us to I think Betty and Hugh took us to the beach.
Yeah.
And Mom and Daddy never didn't go for shorts. Well, they would roll their, finally got where they started rolling their britches legs up. Finally, I think Mama had some shorts, didn't she? I don't know if
Yeah,
Daddy
she
did
did.
ever.
She probably broke in.
And
She
on
did.
Sunday, you didn't dare put on nothing like that. No, that was a no-no.
I don't know these people.
You do.
I don't.
That's Betty and
What's
Hugh and Daddy. I mean, Mama, or is it? You might have been taking the picture.
Hugh and Dad.
Yeah, I see that now.
Is that Mom in the middle or you?
Me.
Okay.
Can you see it any better?
Where's she got it?
I've never seen these pictures before.
I don't think I have either.
They were picking up seashells
And-
over
And
here.
I don't know who that guy there is
Which one?
with Daddy. Anyway, these are.
Let me see.
You don't know either.
Buck Waddell.
It looks like
Is
Bud
that
Waddell on
Bud
this
Waddell?
side.
That's
too.
they down in
I reckon.
Rockingham.
Well, he had some weight on him then.
That's made down in Rockingham. You know,
Oh,
when
that-
Baby Arthur used to live down there.
Oh, that's why we didn't recognize it, I reckon. Now that's a picture there of Mom and Dad, the side of the house at the back. And these must have been made at the beach.
Now, the first picture up there,
Right.
Yeah.
they had a dinner bell, but you better not dare touch that thing and make it ring just because you want to hear it any time of the day, because that meant somebody died. It wasn't dinner time. If somebody died,
But you could ring it at dinner time.
Dinner time, but
there it was rang. I
No,
think.
But
was
when
it only
any-
somebody died, or if there's an emergency?
Right.
Yeah.
Emergency, or either,
Yeah,
or
when-
both.
And sometimes they would ring this bell and for dinner time.
yes.
Right.
People was in the field working to bring them to the house to eat. See,
But when somebody died, they rung the year they were and the months and the days. That's how people realized who it was.
Oh.
I think that's most of the grandchildren at that time, wasn't it, right there?
It must
was.
be.
Yeah.
look at this picture here of the dark flowered blouse that Mama has on and the big checked skirt with it.
Was it a skirt or was it an apron?
Apron is what I thought of.
I think it's the apron.
Probably was an apron.
I don't
And that's Uncle John standing there, and Daddy. See there? That's who that is. I don't know where that was took. And this one, like I say, must be what grandchildren there were at that time. And Mom and Daddy standing there, and that's Barbara beside of Mama. I can't tell who some of the others are.
There was the shop, his blacksmith shop.
Yes,
He would
it
shoe
was.
horses, and he made a lot of his horseshoes himself. Of course, he had an anvil and all of that, and a bellows, to heat the things up so they could bend it like they wanted bent.
Well, no, he blacksmith for himself, only for other
Oh,
people.
just anybody come along.
He could do just about anything.
And
I remember, this older guy come there, and he was a little bit, not really crippled, but some problems with his arms. And when he'd have something like an itchy place, he'd get out that big knife there at the shop yard, and he'd get back there and he'd scratch it. And Daddy got through with his work, tell him how much it was. Well, I declare, I left my billfold at home. So one of us would ask for something, and say, well, if you collect that money, you can get it.
Me and Sis went one day, I don't know how far we did go and try to collect some. He said he'd give us a dime, I believe it was. But we never collected anything. They wouldn't.
There you go.
No, these pictures here, one of them is Buck down here in the barnyard at the shop.
Who's that down there below him?
I believe that-
Grandchildren. Children or grandchildren? Which is children,
You
isn't it?
can't tell which it is.
I don't know
Looks
whether
like
that's
it's
Playing
Mildred.
ball.
I
whether
think
it's
so.
Mildred or Barbara, I can't tell.
it's more like Mildred because of the height.
Yes, I believe it is. And this other picture, I don't know whether that's Terry. I don't believe it's Terry. It must be
Like
Ron.
Roger. It is Roger.
Come near being Ronnie. I don't know who it was.
It's your children.
Anyway, that's one of my old friends. Now this picture up here, I don't know.
You're on it, aren't you?
Well, I don't know. I can't.
Yes, I see.
It looks like that's the dining room because there is the china cupboard that I
Yes,
have.
it is.
That's the window there. And that- Daddy, I don't think Daddy and Mama really talked a lot about the things, that happened along then, but Aunt Bill, we spent most every Saturday afternoon with her because Mom and Daddy would go to town on Saturday afternoon to get the needs, and if they had milk and butter and eggs, they took that along, and she lived up on the hill there just before you get in Concord, and the car they had, and the road was just about like that, and rough at that. And they let us out at the bottom of the hill, and we'd run up the hill and stay till they blowed the horn, and we went back down the hill and got back in the car and went home. But she had a daughter named Jane, and she was between mine and Evelyn's age. And of course, we loved to go Saturday afternoon to get to play with Jane.
You count the cars.
Yeah.
Sat out on the
yes.
road bank.
If you heard one coming, you run to the door to see that car. That's right, out the back door of the kitchen lots of times.
It's a bit of an oddity back then, wasn't it?
But Daddy wouldn't try to go up that hill because he'd afraid he'd choke the car down.
Yeah. It had to be
He wasn't that good a driver anyway.
She was a better driver than him, I think.
I think she was. I think that was Fetcher something, and I think he got the name from that store, and why they wouldn't name it after the store, but I think one of the men that owned it was last name was, her first name was Fetzer, I think. That's one reason they did it. But this first picture, he's got his bare feet showing on here, and he probably has a homemade dress on it. But little boys wore dresses in that day, but you wouldn't put a dress on a boy now, because nobody would like that at all. They certainly wouldn't. And of course, he grew up quite spoiled brat. For his granddaddy was, he was oldest, and he would run around and said he carried snakes in his hip pocket. And they was a man that started the Jackson Training School out there on the other side of the Concord. Well, they lived close to them, and he knew Lee, so he wrote up an article and put it in that called The Uplift when he was quite a young man.
J.P. Cook.
Is right. And of course, like I said, he was the only child around, and I'm sure he was spoiled and whatever. And Granddaddy bought him a mule, called him Obeck. And I think they kept him, I don't know whether he died or whether they got rid of it after the quit farming. But he, like I said, he's quite a spoiled brat. He thought he was boss of everything, I think.
Always was spoiled.
Yep. So as he moved along in life, he stayed single for many years. He was in service before he ever married Faye Sikes, Faye Baringer Sikes. And
He was 33 when he got married.
yes. And so they lived with Mom and Daddy for a while, and then he bought a farm very close by. He was still a farmer, but he worked with Glenn Weinkauf, who hauled cars from Detroit, Michigan for many years. Then he worked for the city of Concord. And he finally got back, retired, and went back to doing a little farming then. But there was no children to this family, which we regretted very much that they did not have any. But anyway, when he didn't marry until he was in service. And she stayed there with Mom and Daddy. She didn't go back to her folks at all. She just stayed there with them then.
He worked, Carpenter worked with Frank's.
Yeah, Mr. Stink, McDonald is right.
And the burial man, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Louis Berry.
I think they did.
Was he in World War One?
Yeah,
Two.
two.
World
That's
War
what he
II?
was in. He guarded German prisoners down in, I think it was Alabama, Mississippi, somewhere down there. And then he finally moved on to Japan and unloaded ships in Yokohama. That's where, in Japan. He guarded prisoners of
Prisoner
war.
of war camps?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Military police is what he was.
But they were in that, they're in Mississippi.
And he told us that they found that some of those men were trying to dig a tunnel to get out of there, and they had some kind of string, a ribbon around their neck, some kind of little container that was tied with that ribbon, and they'd fill that with dirt and to carry it out on the ground where they was out and where they was fenced up. But they finally caught them what they were doing, trying to get out of there. And I suppose they were still down there maybe when the war was over, but he did not stay there that long. He went on to Yokohama, Japan. That's what he did. He wasn't much of a letter writer, though. He wrote occasionally, but I wrote him twice every week, I suppose, while he was in service. Also, my husband's brother-in-law was in the European theater, and Lee was in the Japanese areas where he was. But he didn't have too much chance to come home at any time. He really didn't. But of course, we made a lot of pictures when he would be coming home to see the family and see Faye then after he's married. And here's one that's sitting on that step, just like Mom and Daddy was sitting on. It was a while ago up there. Was one of those elm trees in the front yard of the old home. This is a picture aboard the ship or carrier or something there that was made where he was stationed. Is what that was. And of course, as I said, we made many pictures of him, and this is one. Him sitting on a chair in the front yard in front of the old home there. And Faye was sitting on his lap, and she was dressed up. It must have been Easter or something like
It
that.
was Easter.
That was on Sunday after they got married on Tuesday.
Yeah, And she's got all a dress on, I'm sure, that she wore in the wedding.
It was.
It's in my drawer at home,
Uh-huh.
her wedding dress is.
Yeah.
She gave it to me.
And
I did
It
have
was
a hat.
purple.
I don't know.
It
It
was
turned purple. It was
But I
kind of a
think it
blue
was
dress.
blue purple or something in the
It
color.
was a pretty blue.
It had draped down across here and lace on that, or it was something else.
And this, of course, is another picture of out in the front yard of the old home place there. And this is one that was made when he was overseas, I assume in Japan, because he did not go to the European theater there at all. And here he's one sitting on a chair just outside of the old home place there.
I've got
At
one
the
like
corner of the
that.
house is what this one is. And this was one made with his civilian clothes on. I don't know exactly where this was made, but it might have been there in the yard because it looks like his car there in the background, doesn't it? Surely does. And let's see what, this is one of him. Of course, you can see he had his overalls on, but back then all the men folks wore overalls, and when they come in from church, they had to go home and put the overalls on. You didn't go out and work in
Right,
good clothes. You just did
Sunday
not.
suit, you didn't keep that on.
That is definitely right. But he worked the farm, and of course Faye followed after him a good bit because he was on a tractor and it turned over. And I think she went to see about it, and she found out, and they had to get somebody to get the tractor turned over, and he could have been killed really when that
Sure.
thing fell up or went over like that.
That was Easter Saturday.
Yeah. And so he enjoyed working on the farm, but I don't think he did a whole lot, long before he died. But he had died of a heart attack, was in the hospital very sick for quite some time. But
It was up there 2 weeks.
it's a good while. But of course, this is with all of us youngins here, and I don't exactly, Betty, was this your home, Betty, or was it
No, it
yours?
was mine.
Was it yours? There's
At
that
Mark's birthday party.
Yeah.
Now, I remember his home place. Did they live there their whole lives and their married life, or did they move around, or
About their married life.
their married life? They
When
lived
they
in the
left
same
Mom
place.
and Daddy's, they moved to
Farm, and moved down there.
Frank Meissenheimer, wasn't it, on that?
Yes.
Mhm. I think they saved all the checks that was sent to her while he was in service.
Service.
Well, she worked in the mill on second shift when Mama did. They were without her first.
But he didn't get along with children too well always. They were doing some work on the front of our church, and they had some of the lumber and pieces laying out in the front yard of the church. And the pastor had 2 little boys, and they were just being boys. They weren't really harming anything, but they were jumping over the lumber and stuff that's there that they was using. And he began to yell at them about doing it. And the pastor spoke up and said, "Boys, Mr. Lee doesn't have any children. Just don't do things like that." He cut his water off. He didn't say no more to those
His
boys.
bark was worse than his bite.
Yeah.
That was just his nature.
It was, but he shouldn't have talked that way to children, really.
I think he got it honest
Well,
from Grandpa, from
well,
what I understood.
not our daddy.
No,
Because
no, our Grandpa.
Yeah.
Are these yours? Well, that goes with your
Yes,
first.
yeah. And like I said, he died in the hospital with a heart attack. That's what he did.
And Faye lived several years later, and she lived with you.
Mm-hmm.
And,
She never went back home to sleep.
She said she'd never spent a night by herself. And I told her the Saturday morning we come from the hospital, I said, Faye, you can go home with me.
Mhm.
And then when he died, she's sitting there on the couch, and she said to one of the boys, said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've never stayed by myself. And I think it was Ronnie. He said, ain't Peggy was dead, Mom. I don't know how many years she was there. I've been thinking about that. But it was a good while.
Yeah, good while.
Yeah. Now tell that
6 or 7 years, wasn't it?
7 or 8.
Yeah, something.
I expect it
I
was.
don't remember.
I remember when he was at home and we had snows, he would always go outside barefoot and go all the way around the house. He never was sick. Or at least I was told that.
Good immune system.
I guess he did.
No, I don't think he was sick.
But he had double pneumonia when Betty was born.
Right.
Don't you remember that?
No, I really
Him and Mama was there in the fire room. I remember that.
I think I do now since you mentioned that.
Yeah.
But in 1927, I think it was, a big snow came, and I was just a little girl, but I think in about first grade or something like that in school. Well, he got up and went on to school that morning, but the longer it snowed, the deeper it became. And Mama became worried about him, and she called up one of the neighbors who lived down near the schoolhouse, wonder where Lee was. Said, him and Byron it was sitting here playing with dominoes or something like that. Said, he's all right, just don't worry with him. So I don't really know if he spent the night or whether he trudged his way home.
He did. I remember him coming up that path beside the old shop.
Yeah.
I can see him, yet just a little bitty feller, coming up through that snow.
Came up through it.
Well, that was about 1927, I think, or something like that, what it was.
And he was born in 1911.